And I can't wait to get started. So I'm going to hand it over to Sabra to interrogate these horse trainers. I know everybody's a little nervous, but it's going to be a great night. So good luck, you guys.
Okay, thank you guys for being here. First of all, to the panel for saying yes. I want to just pass the mic down and let everyone introduce themselves. You don't have to go too far because I do have some history that I can refer back to. Okay. But just like recent, where you are, stuff like that. And then we'll get started with the questions. If you go, or if you can pass it all the way down to the center.
My name is DJ Santaferra. I'm from Syracuse, New York. I moved here about 12 years ago, and I'm the owner and trainer of Santaferra Stables. We just opened like a month ago, so very excited.
I'm Dawson Archibald. I'm from Wichita, Kansas. I've been in Shelbyville, Kentucky for about a year. I'm the assistant trainer instructor for Nicola and DJ Berger at Little Way Stables.
Hi,
I'm Julianne Rafferty. I'm originally from Pasadena, California, and I've been in Kentucky for 3 years now. And Austin and I own and operate at Rosehaven Farm in Versailles.
Hello, I'm Austin Hazelwood. I am from Danville, Virginia. As she said, we have Rosehaven Farm in Versailles, and I've been here for about 2 years.
Hi, I'm Kelly Lockhart. I have been in Kentucky for 14 years and have been at Alabama for about 10 years now. I'm Alicia from Michigan.
So,
You're gonna start with me? That's nice of you. Tom Report, from Sonora, Kentucky. Obviously the son of Tammy Devore. That's about it for me.
No.
Okay.
You're Morgan Bryce's daughter.
Obviously.
Obviously. I'm Morgan Bryson Devore.
Here you go.
Married to Sabra Devore. I'm from New Bloomfield, Missouri originally, and I moved to Kentucky about 6 years ago, and I work at Devore Stables.
Hi, I'm Glenn T. Werry. I've been in Kentucky for 14 years now. I own and operate Donegal Hill Stables in Pritchard Hills, Kentucky.
Yeah.
Work with my wife up there.
Hi, I'm Mackenzie Werry, and I operate Bright Promise Farm out of Versailles, Kentucky. I'm originally from Huntington Beach, California. Moved here 15 years ago and started my own business a little less than 4.5 years ago.
I'm Tyler Walker. I grew up 7 miles down the road from here, actually in Georgetown, Kentucky, and I am currently employed at Precious Springs Farms.
Where's that?
Oh.
We'll start with you. Okay, so first, why don't you share the story of how you got started in the horse industry, going back to maybe holding fruit salad?
Okay. So I got started. My dad is Bob Bryson, and I grew up riding with him and my mom since before I could remember. And Holy Fruit Salad, he was my first horse. He was my walking trot horse, and he was wonderful. And so from there, my uncle is Virgil Helm, and he's also a horse trainer. And so between them and him, I didn't have a chance.
Like, do you remember going to the barn, like, when you were younger?
Yes, I remember. So my dad started at Cowboy Hills when I was little, and I remember at night I'd be like in the tap room playing with rider horses or whatever, and get a 2-stall barn in the backyard. And he would work colts at night after he got back from Cowboy Hills. And I remember plain as day, because all he had was a bullpen and 2 stalls, and him and my mom just did it all on their own.
Cool. That's
deep ankle.
all right. Why don't you can pick who you want to hand the mic to. It can be your. I don't think she. Yeah. What inspired you to pursue a career in training horses?
I don't know. Well, I love horses. And I like business. And when I learned that I could make money in something that I absolutely love and have a strong passion for, I just went for it. I was super young, I didn't hold back, and I found the best people I could find to work with, and that would take me under their wing, and that's what I did.
And you started with Elaine Gregory, right?
I started riding in upstate New York at a couple smaller barns, and just learned as much as I could, and I started catch riding for Elaine Gregory, and that's when she offered me like a summer internship where I could catch ride and work and learn to train horses. And I was like, I'm just gonna not go back to school. And I actually didn't. I enrolled in homeschooling and I taught myself and I just did it. And November of my sophomore year in high school, I was like, okay, wait a minute. Like, let's say, God forbid, this doesn't work out. I thought we should go back to high school. So I did. I went back home and I just started playing around with horses in my backyard and trying to figure it out. And when I was old enough, I had my license and I could drive, I was like, okay, now what do I need to do? So I got connected to Jim and Faye Lowry and they were looking for an assistant trainer. And I was like 17 years old. And I was like, I'm ready, let's go. And I drove all the way out there and he was like, well, I'll hire you. And so I went there and I stayed there for 3 years and that's where I got started.
Very cool. Okay. Next question is to Mackenzie. I'll go to you. Was there a defining moment when you knew this was going to be the path for you?
I think I always wanted to be a horse trainer. I grew up with my mom being a riding instructor for Ann Speck in California. And we were at the barn a couple days a week. It was a little over an hour from our house. And so we couldn't be there every day. But I was there as much as I could be. I did all the camps. I volunteered as a helper for camps later on. I just always loved the horses. And I did school and I went to college and got a business degree. And in the back of my mind, I was like, this is the best way to be able to start my own business someday. And I took my horse to college. I pretty much just, like, he was my first kind of training horse and did as much as I could with him in all different directions. And right after college, the last summer between my junior and senior year of college, I went to work for Jimmy Helen Robertson, and that was pretty much the end of any other options. I moved out here a week after graduating college, worked for them for a year and a half, and then worked for several other people for about 10 years, and finally was able to start my own business. Like I didn't actually necessarily think I wanted my own business that whole time because of the responsibility, because of the commitment. But working for all the different people, I felt like I kind of found my path and what I really liked. And when I worked for George Knight, that was kind of like what made me think I could actually do it. I liked the small operation. I liked the focus on young horses. And that's what I ultimately created. That my double-cheek.
Between Morgans and Saddlebreds, you still do have an operating breeding program. So what do you think the horse training industry has evolved between the two over the last decade?
That's a pretty broad question. I'm trying to summarize it as I can. I think the greatest, contextually, when the horse business really changed was really more 30 years ago than 10 years ago. Where my family started back in the horses, my lot grew up in the racing world in the 60s and the 70s. Then we kind of jumped back into the early late 90s when I was a little kid. And actually probably the reason why I'm still in the horse business is because when my parents were trying to get me involved, horses are not always the most fun for little boys. They're always bored and trying to get in trouble. And they asked a really prominent horse trainer, Hall of Fame horse trainer at the time, Sabra Crabtree, how do they get their kid involved? And he said, buy little boys' rope toys.
in Hazard County.
And that's kind of how we started. Is they'll learn spacing, they'll learn how to use their hands, because they're not super subtle. He's like, so you're farther away from their face. And so, and that's truly how it started. Though I don't know that it wouldn't, but I don't know that would be, of course, to something I haven't been for Ray, telling my family to do that 31 years like this. So that's kind of how that started. It's evolved in different things, but I would say the biggest, but over that 30-year period, the transition from so many jobs being private jobs into being in the public space has changed so much. One that I think the biggest things that has changed for horse trainers in the last 10 years, especially over that 30 years, is the responsibility that we have that doesn't have anything to do with horse training called. That's honestly should be the biggest point of our jobs since we are called horse trainers, but that unfortunately they can be a fraction of what we actually deal with, just operationally. You're the owner of your business, you're the CEO of your business, you're the CFO, you're your customer customer, best friend, therapist. There's a whole lot of hats you have to wear that become before you can train the horses. So I would think that's probably just short microcosm of it with the last 10 years of the responsibilities that we have to incur that don't necessarily have any horse training compared to what it used to be when we got into the horse business 30 years ago. When you worked for a private job for one customer,
Right.
and you trained a way smaller operation, and if the lights weren't working in the barn, you called who was in charge of maintenance on the farm to come fix the lights, or if someone runs into the wall with the tractor, water comes flowing through the bulkhead, you have to fix it.
Right.
There's-
Or your health doesn't show up.
Yeah, or your health doesn't show up, or you can help. So
Right.
it's just a litany of things that are different than it used to be.
So going back to Hazard County, do you feel the difference between showing ponies by it being yourself and then feeling comfortable to put junior exhibitors in the ring versus amateurs in the ring?
The good news for my operations, I let you do that. I do think that my business, typically what we specialize in, we stand a stallion, he breeds 50 to 75 mares a year, depending on where we cut it off at. And a lot of the supply chain that where we look at stallion, this thing's dressed up, when a lot of the horses that I get in to sell are sired by him. But one of the things that's helped me, I guess, and I've done several different life careers, but being on both sides of it as a junior exhibitor, amateur, and professional, when you're not able to do it every day, you know what they need to feel like for somebody and what they need to, their baseline needs to be. Go means go, go means wow. A certain, soft mouth but not so sensitive, they can get someone in trouble, things like that. So that, I would say that's probably the best benefit for me personally.
Good. All right, next, let's pass it down to Ellie.
So the
From Michigan, licensed CNOS.
Yes.
Do you remember winning your first World Championship horse show, Blue Ribbon?
I did, but that actually wasn't there. That was actually when I came to Calabria.
Okay.
Yeah, that was, within the first year that I was at Calabria. Yeah, it was Calabria Studious Girl. It's a real park maturity. Yeah, that was a pretty defining moment for me. That was pretty special.
And that was what we figured was 2014.
2014.
And so then in 24, you got another Blue Ribbon. Congratulations. So what do you think the difference is in that 10 years?
Oh God, huge difference.
Like mentally, physically, all of that.
Yeah, mentally, definitely. I think it's funny, like, when I thought I knew a lot when I first came to Kentucky and was working for Melinda, and, as you, like, kind of you realize as you get through the years, you don't know a lot. And I just think, to be very open-minded, I feel like, I've learned a lot about showing a horse in 10 years. Just confidence in the show ring, because I have had a lot of opportunities since then. I didn't have really nice horses growing up to show. I had one show horse, but I learned a lot with them. I think it's just it's Yeah, for lots of years. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Great. Austin?
What has been your most rewarding experience as horse trainer?
Oh, that's a hard one. I love racking colts, and so I would say when you start with a colt, they get a little confused at first, and they don't really know what you're asking them to do, and you just take the time and you spend it with them, and you sit there, and then when they feel that what you're asking them, and they feel those steps, and they finally figure out how to consistently take a few steps, and then the light bulb clicks in their head. That's my most rewarding thing with training horses. I love that experience.
Do you decide, like, how do you decide if you're going to teach them to rack? Do you try them all?
I don't try them all.
Yeah.
Julianne,
It feels like it.
I think that if you do it slowly and take your time, you can give all of them 30 days with trying to rack, and it doesn't hurt them at all. If anything, it just gets them good and broke to ride. You can help their mouth by doing it. You can do a lot of good things by doing it if you do it the right way. And I learned that from Virgil. Virgil, big on racking colts, loves to rack colts, and I worked for him for 2 years, and it was a lot of fun. And Virgil and I like to rack colts, so we had to do a lot of that.
Was it ever competitive between the two of you?
Virgil wasn't doing a whole lot when I was there. He worked horses, but I mean, Virgil's been doing this for a long time, so he's kind of taken a step back. I mean, he still does a lot, but
Yeah.
he doesn't ride quite as many as he used to. So I got to do a lot of them. But it was awesome having him on the ground and him teaching me.
Yeah, those are essential to having someone on the ground.
Yes.
It's the physical part of it too. You too? What is your favorite part of the training process?
Right.
Like putting an amateur in, putting a juniors in, like,
No, not that hard. Yeah, I think seeing any team come together, whether it be Austin, one of his 3-year-olds, or an amateur or junior exhibitor, but when you see it every day and you see the progress and then they go in the ring and maybe they don't win, but they accomplished everything, that's the most rewarding to me. We did our jobs, the team came together, so I think that's it. And it doesn't really, for me, it could be mine, like me and my horse too. But seeing those, like Austin said, like the light bulb and seeing a team actually really work together, that's the most rewarding to me.
Boston, Wichita, Kansas, Sheridan, you grew up riding Morgans, showing Morgans, and then you went from Wichita to Lansing, Triple Crown,
Yes.
in Morgan and Saddlebreds. Yeah, I did my research. So what do you feel from going as junior exhibitor now into breaking colts, putting junior exhibitors, you're not far from the junior exhibitor. Yeah, what do you feel is the most rewarding part of that?
It's a whole different world. I mean, I went from doing equitation and I rode some amazing horses. I spent time with Todd Miles and Macy Miles, and they really, it was the fine tuning, equitating horses, all of just like the really minute details and stuff. And then going back to where all of those horses, where they began, breaking them under saddle, racking them and stuff, it has really just been the coolest thing ever. Last year when I broke my first one to ride, I mean, I got off and I was like, whoa, they all start out like that. You're telling me they all start out like that. The bad ones and the good ones. And this year I got to rack my first one. I bought him as a yearling, and then went through the whole process with him up to racking him. And when he took his first steps, I mean, Nicola was right there with me, showing me what to do, what not to do. And it has just been the coolest thing ever. I go to bed every night thinking, oh my God, we get to do this again tomorrow.
And you put an equitation rider in, you sell it.
Yeah. And that's the best part, is doing the colts and all that. And then I have Stella too, and I get to show her what I would have made my favorite part ever is she had the mare last year, Seven Oaks Air Show, and they came to us in the beginning, right when I moved there. Actually, me and her got there like the same week, and we kind of looked at each other. I'm like, listen, kid, we're in it together. we're gonna succeed, and we're gonna fail together. And when it was January, she did a pattern worthy of a little pattern, and I mean, just seeing it on her face, it took me right back to when I was doing it myself, and it was so much better than when I was doing it. It was just it's really cool, and watching her now on like a career horse that doesn't know as much, and she's learning on a gaited horse. It is really the best of both worlds, and I'm so grateful for Nicola for letting me be a part of that and teaching me. It's unreal.
Very long.
All right, Mr. Santaferra. What is your biggest, most defining career moment? At the
About skipping.
I don't have any restrictions on that, so.
Defining career road.
That's a hard one. I've been blessed with so many great moments in this business. I really can't pick just one.
Career one. Oh my gosh, I knew you were going to ask this question.
Rating, putting someone in the ring.
I think when my first colt that I raced won his world's championship, that was pretty cool. I had worked, when I worked at Escalade Stables with Kathy Capsuto, there was a mare named Myra Berta, and I always liked her babies, but I always wanted to try to breed her differently. And so when I started working with Jen, I had an opportunity to buy when we were horses, and the first thing I did was buy a brood mare. And I bought my Roberta, and I bred it a Thundergun because I had Storm Seeker and a couple others that I really liked. And he's bulletproof. And, there's just something about, like, you raise it, you train it. I sold it in the barn to Lori Stallenwerk. She believed in the process. He ended up not being like an open 3-gate world grand champion, but he's the world champion country pleasure driving horse, and that was super fun. Thank you, Lori, for the opportunity. And but that was probably one of my most proudest moments, both of Lori and Leo. That's what we call them, our horse. And getting to raise one like that, and he's just special. I mean, every day he's the same. He loves his job, and that's all the Thunderguns I know. That's why I bred to him.
Okay. Right. All right, Mr. Tyler. So it wasn't too lumpy with her back in the age.
All my research back then.
2003, right wing.
Yeah.
One Trump pleasure.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
To now, KCW. Still do everything the same way, or is someone on the ground telling you?
Most of the people on the ground. I would say majority of it is people on the ground. I would say a lot of it's me. I'm fine with that. It's a long time. Driving was pretty special. That was a long time ago. Was not ready for that question. He was pretty cool. He taught me a lot, long time ago. And if you'd asked me back then if I'd still be doing this around horse, I'd say you go crazy. But still here, still loving it.
So how many years have you been training?
Kind of like TJ, my freshman year of high school, I started homeschooling because I was going to the invitation team, and they told me if I was to miss the 2 weeks to be gone for that, they were going to expel me because I already missed so much school for horse shows as it was. And so
School.
Yeah, it's not that important. Especially if you're going to do this.
Think about it.
After that, started homeschooling. I was 15. Started working in the barn. I would come to the barn in the mornings. I would do homeschooling until like 11, 12 o'clock. And then immediately shut the computer as fast as I could, run out, start getting horses ready, start, doing what I had to do. And then, so here we are. It's been 15 years that it has. Yeah.
Remember going on the huddle with your
Oh, yeah.
when you were young?
Oh, yeah. Sleeping on the trunks because you were tired and over it and wanted to go home.
Wanted to do that.
Yeah. We've been out here all day.
Yeah. Are we gonna eat?
Like, I love it, but can we go to bed?
Right.
Sleeping on trunks, helping get horses ready, having mom and Demal drag me around everywhere. remember all of it. It's been pretty great.
Yeah, cool. And then with Casey this year,
Yeah, and then Casey, it's pretty special himself.
Justin Weird is
Having Justin there made it everything. Yes, that. If Justin wouldn't have came, I'll be honest with you, I probably would have shut doors.
cool.
Just because he was ready. He was too nice. I thought, just didn't need to rush it. And when he's ready, he's ready. And then Justin called and said, I'm going to come. I'm going to make it. I want to be there. I said, well, we're going to show, regardless of what it was. And it worked out pretty great. Yeah.
Congratulations, Blake. Good cause up. All right, hand it over to your bride. Obviously, we've established that Tanya is by your parents.
Yes.
Rachel's your uncle. What guidelines have they given you as far as being an assistant, just the daily, plus just having a daughter, bringing her up in this? Do you feel like the same comparedness is what they were wanting around you, you're now instilling in your daughter?
Yes, I try to instill some of that. I mean, she's 3, so right now it's just all about leading the pony, brushing the pony, all that fun stuff. But my dad was very big on, even though I grew up in it, Virgil, my grandfather, all of them, he wanted me to be my own person. He wanted me to go to college. And he told me that you're not allowed to major in horses.
What?
And you're not allowed to do anything with horses while you're in school. You can show and come to the barn and stuff, but when you're at school, I want you to get a business degree. He said, do whatever you want. I don't care, but you need to see what's outside of this. And I did. And that's why I ended up going to college for 5 years, because I changed my major so many times. And I ended up majoring in the horse business at William Lawrence. And, but I am grateful to him that he made me kind of go outside of it, because I think it was good for me to know, like, this is really what I want. It was good for me to explore the other options, because there are days when I come home from the barn and I'm like, I'm really doing this again tomorrow. But, overall, I'm really grateful for that. And that's what I want for Ellie. I never want her to feel like she has to do this. If she wants to, or if she wants to play soccer, that's fine. But it is a really great way to grow up. Even like my sister has nothing to do with horses, but she grew up coming around the horse shows and stuff with the people. She's friends with all of them, and it's there's no better way to grow up, in my opinion.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Let's hand it down to the other Tyler. So you grew up in Georgetown, as you stated, and you showed road ponies.
Yes, it's done said. That's the way to start boys.
Well, Tyler was a spot truck, like
Yeah. It is what it is.
Yeah. What, being at Smith's now, what do you feel is the difference from showing ponies to now doing in hand and getting to kind of do it?
Extremely more nerve-wracking. We do a lot of colds at Smith's right now, especially this time of year. And it's just trying to learn as much as you can and trying to help them learn at the same time. And it's just such an eye-opening experience. I mean, the coaching that I've had from Smith, Alexandra, and Sandy has just been incredible. And I had a great foundation from my parents, just right down the road. And when I first went to Smith's, my dad told me, forget everything you know. And so I did it. And started colts with Smith and doing it his way. And it's been great ever since. We're awesome.
Cool. Do you come home a lot to?
I was talking to a friend earlier, and I haven't been to Georgetown in 3 years. So it's a little sad coming back, but it's great to be home.
Good. Great. Good. We can, I guess, keep going. We do pass it down to whoever. We'll just kind of Why don't you share a funny or surprising moment you've experienced while training? I mean, did you split your pants? Have
Yeah, I've done that a few times.
put on your hat?
Probably the most funniest,
Just fell down.
embarrassing. I've got a bunch, but might be in Chattanooga. I don't know. It's been what, 5 years ago, probably. I was showing a little 3-year-old gator colt that wasn't any world beater or anything, but he was a nice little colt. And at Chattanooga, it's out open outside, like covered, wood railing, we're about that high. Came down to the end, second way, first way, the ring canter. That's the colt canter. And he decided that he didn't want to canter, he wanted to jump out of the ring.
Oh.
And he jumped completely out of the ring and ripped my pants all the way up, everywhere. I mean, you can name a stitch, it was gone. And yeah, and hit the ground, and they never stopped the class, never taught it time out. They said, our guy at Work Sports Learns, I said, look at me and said, what do you want me to do? I said, I guess go back to the barn. They don't care. So we went back, and sad enough, that's the second time that's happened. No. The first time it was at Cater, Alabama. The rail at that horse show, in my defense, is very, thank you, Morgan. It was very, very low. And I was showing I was like 14 at the time, I was showing a junior super gator horse named Juice Box. And same thing, canter in second wing, went to ask him to canter, and he said, nope, we're going out. And Chuck Herbert was the judge. And I'll never forget, me and Mom come running over there. She's like, you all right? I said, yeah, I'm okay. She said, all right, well, we're going to turn around, and we're going to this little door, you're going to get back on. Chuck was the judge, and Chuck walked over and said, no, he's not. No, he's not. And she said, why not? He goes, well, technically, Tammy, he left the ring. So I can't let you back in. And there was no other way out. So we walked him out of the main grandstand front door, like a person. We walked him out the door. Yeah, so that's happened to me twice.
So do you get nervous second direction canter?
Particularly, but it is in the back of my head. I ain't gonna lie. And trying to start maybe a little further off the lip.
Yeah.
Just
Someone
that's
else to it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's happened. People like to bring it up. I don't like to talk about it.
Oh, sorry. Okay, so let's ask Juju. Has there been an embarrassing ring experience for you?
I don't know.
Not for me. There was one, but I guess I was related because Austin did it. But I thought it was embarrassing, but I find most things embarrassing. We were at Asheville last year, and he was in the junior gated stake, and he thought, that he was really hot stuff. And he had the big reverse and trot. And Tyler was there. He got incredible photos, and Melissa Moore just staring at him. And I'm screaming. I'm like, you have to stop. And Danny was in the class. He was going the correct direction. Tyler's going behind him. He's like, I'm just following Austin. Yelling that.
I was like, he reversed, so we're going to.
Yeah. And then they made him stop and reverse. And so I found that mortifying. Actually. Yeah. We got great photos, but.
Was it mortifying for you?
Everything for the picture. So actually, I was gonna turn and I was just gonna kind of bounce. And that was the first time that horse has ever been shown. And I was gonna bounce and start preparing because there was 3 of us in the class and all of us were down on the one end. So I was like, I'm gonna prepare for my reverse and get. I turned him and he said, no, we're going, buddy. And so I was like, all right, well, I better just go with it and hope they call for the reverse.
They did not.
Melissa. Call for the reverse. She waited until I stopped.
And you followed him.
I couldn't hear it, so I thought they said it right. I thought when he went, they must have said it, I didn't hear it. So
But he was saying out loud while writing, he's like, I'm following Austin.
Don't follow me, Tyler. It's not a good idea.
what happened again?
Well, yeah, at least we stayed in the ring that time.
Yeah. Dawson, let's ask you what changes have you seen from showing with Cheryl to now, just in the industry itself?
So when I was showing with Cheryl, I remember my first horse, we bought him for maybe 12 grand, and he looked like a rescue pet. And we brought him home, and we got weight on him, and we taught him to wear curb, and he didn't know how to canter, which is great because I needed to walk and trot horse. Now, and he looked like thoroughbred. And now Morgans look like saddlebreds. Yeah, they're beautiful in every way. My last Morgan I had, he was a saddlebred. And then I look back at sweet Eddie, and I'm like, so you were a little thoroughbred. The quality of horses, I mean, is so much different. I also had a little Western horse I showed Cheryl. And I remember thinking he was the most beautiful thing ever. And then now I look at Western horses like that. Just showed it more Grand Nationals and one of them. Oh wow, you look like you were sculpted, like right. I mean, and I remember I paid such close attention to the saddlebreds when I was younger, but when I stepped into that world and like looking at it now, watching gaited horses and stuff, it's just the quality and it's just changed so much. You still keep in touch with Cheryl? I need to call her. But she's right down the road from home. I haven't been home in about a year. I'm about due for a visit to see my old horses.
Absolutely. If you could offer a piece of advice to a younger you, what would that advice be as training?
Rome wasn't built in a day. Patience. Yeah. Patience for myself. Patience for the process. It does not happen in a day. And who I am now versus who I was a year ago versus what I'll be in 10 years, you're going down the road with the process. So Rome was not built in a day.
Sounds like Nicola told you that.
She did. Every day.
All right, let's go back to Mackenzie. Are there any particular breeds or disciplines that you prefer working with?
I guess I prefer the saddlebred. I love Morgans. I grew up riding Morgans and saddlebreds, mostly saddlebreds because they're typically bigger and taller and a tall person. But being married to my husband, I see a lot of beautiful Morgans. So disciplines.
Where does that supposed to rack?
Oh yeah, and I do love racking. He said Morgan just rack. Being the best in Hempstead, yeah.
So
disciplines. I mean, I do love a gaited horse. I love a horse that's good at what they're doing. Not this past year, the year before, I actually worked a horse that was gaited as a young horse, and I turned him into a Western horse, and he was reserve world champion of champions this year, showing Western, and that was just his calling. Like he jogged. That's all he wanted to do was jog. He didn't love a snaffle bit, and I was a little bit nervous about putting a curb on it. The second I put a curb on, he was like, "This is what I'm meant to do," and I don't think I ever put a snaffle bit in his mouth again. So I just appreciate a willing horse, one that wants to participate, one that wants to do a job because that's what we all have to do in life, and I just want to make them as happy as possible and as comfortable as possible, and I don't rack every single thing I wear. There's a lot of bloodlines that are, more typically gated, and that's kind of what I'll go with, and then also the way they move. But I appreciate any nice horse in any discipline as long as they're happy doing their job, I guess.
So the kind of a full circle moment for you. Your mom used to give you lessons, and now you're giving the mom lessons.
Yeah.
Has she ever just gotten off and she's like, "No, you can't tell me what to do"?
Yeah, well, actually, she was riding earlier this week, and my trainer I grew up riding with, Ann Speck, was there, and we were recalling the time when Ann told my mom she wasn't allowed to give me lessons anymore because we talked back to each other too much. So, and then I was like, don't talk back to me while you're riding because they will tell you not to ride anymore. It's a lot of fun, and I definitely learned all the basics from my mom, and I'm glad to get to share it with her. Yeah, she shared it with me.
Cool. And same for you too, really. I mean, do you feel any different from when you were taking lessons to
So,
giving lessons now to someone on the Morgan side? You know, is it different growing up hearing what now and you kind of saying the same thing and how you teach someone?
My first riding lesson with Colby Hooper was with her mom, Sarah, in 1994. Full ring road at Carriage Lake Farm, which I could answer was there on the whole show pony butter. So,
Butter's probably still alive. So.
Yeah, she was right. She was pretty. I think, and then second riding lesson was John can answer. There's no one more intense than John. But he was, it was a different
Gave you a
time.
lesson on Buttercup?
No, he pulled me off of Buttercup and rode her himself. And we have a videotape that we transferred to this DVD and transferred.
Wow.
Yeah, no, that's a cherished possession. It should be probably in this museum. But no, John was really serious. And I remember I was a real little kid. Paul Trevor had just moved Kelly's criteria to John from Tom Ward. And I remember really specifically, Paul was a strong guy. And then he came into the barn with a McDonald's bag and tried to hide it. And John caught him with it. And John just cussed him like a yard dog and said, "This is an athletic sport." He's like, "If you want that horse to perform it, if you want me to get that horse to perform at its peak level, you need to perform at your peak level." And there's certain things that you can say then that you can't say now, unfortunately, but the truth is still the same. This is an athletic sport. And so, but the biggest thing for me whenever, I specialize in cold development, so I'm not instructing people regularly, but the biggest thing when people come and try horses is just breathe. Get oxygen to your brain. But because if you can think, you can ride. And if you can't think, you're not going to ride very well. So the best way to think is with oxygen to your brain, responsibly stuff. That's probably the biggest thing. It's just focus on the little things. If you can ride, you can ride. If you can't, you can't. But if you're not breathing, you can't do that.
Very valid. Is it? We can pass it down to Miss Kelly. What is your favorite part of the training process?
I like
Food.
a lot. I like the aspects of all of it. I love team number amateur with a horse, especially one that wasn't previously an amateur horse, but that we brought up, like the 3 and 4 year old, and then it's time now for them to, amateur to step on, put them in the ring. I think that's incredibly rewarding. Starting colts, just from, bringing them in out of the field, that, to get into the show ring, if you can get that far, it's incredibly rewarding. Like Austin said, I love ration colts. I think that this time of year, that's my favorite thing to do. I really look forward to that day to day. Just the process of it happening, little by little by little. I think it does take a lot of patience. And you've got some that'll pick up on it, in one day. And then you've got some that just take a little bit longer, 30 days, 60 days sometimes. But that they'd be so good doing that job. You want to give them time. And you want to give them time to do it. I also find it rewarding, like when you get a colt in and you kind of look at it and you're like, oh gosh, this kind of is a mess. Yeah, I like being wrong about those colts that eventually come around. You get for their long riding them and getting hooked, and then all of a sudden you're like, this might be all right, and then they end up, making something of themselves. I think that's neat. Doesn't happen a lot, I think, but every now and then you get one like that, and it's fun to see.
Yeah.
I think, the good ones, the great ones, I think from the beginning, most of them are, you can kind of tell that about them. So, yeah.
I mean, do you feel like you could stand, some people can pick out a yearling or even a weanling from field and say, oh yeah, that one's going to be able to do whatever. And they change your mind instantly when they come in.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen the really nice weanlings and yearlings that are just, maybe their job isn't a show horse. Like you would walk and bring them in and you stand them up and they just look incredible, but maybe they just don't have, they're not athletic, or they just don't have you a show horse, and it's unfortunate, but I think it is hard. I mean, there are people that are really good at that can pick something out of the field and it works for them. Yeah, it works for them. We're very fortunate enough. We have some great mares. Our customers have great mares, and it's been really, really fun. And over the years, getting those babies out of those mares in and working them, seeing similarities, and a lot of times they confer with us on how they need to, what should we cross this mare with? What do you think, with her attitude, or what does she lack? What do we need to cross with? What do you think about this one? Or, and that's been really cool, work with some of those babies and just the similarities, or some will get in and they're like, shoot, this baby isn't anything like this mare in a good or bad way sometimes.
Generation.
Yeah, or so that's also a lot of fun.
Cool.
All right. Austin? Let me go back to my notes about we can see if I can pull up something. Actually, if I need any questions, I'll ask Glenn. In 2005, do you remember the old Chesapeake Bay?
I do remember her.
And then you went on with Leader of the Band.
Yeah.
With several in between.
Uh-huh.
What have you decided in those years what made you want to pursue a career in being a horse trainer?
I think more of my life, I wanted to be a horse trainer than I did. My Aunt Lori is the one that I grew up going to the barn. She had a barn. We trained whatever came in the door. And I was there every day through after school, through middle school, and then in high school I became homeschooled. And I was in the barn every day. And then I did my school after. I went to the barn first. I worked about 5 or 6 horses, and then I did schoolwork after. I can't think of a time that I was not going to be a horse trainer. I mean, from the time the first time I showed a horse, I was 2 years old, and from then on, I have always
Did you start with road ponies too?
I did not. The first horse I showed was a Morgan, and that kind of went away from the Morgans for a little while. I mean, we still worked a few when I was growing up, but primarily saddlebreds, and then my jobs were saddlebreds, and then now, thanks to Julianne, I'm back in the Morgan business, which is kind of cool.
What has been you brought Peach to Rafferty, and why don't you tell them about the special lap band or the lap rate that you wore? Lap robe that you had.
The first time I showed Peach, I didn't know what to wear, and Nelson Green was helping me. He was renting stalls at the barn that I was at, and Arrowhead. Us wasn't there yet. And him and Josie helped me get dressed, and they let me use Sally E. Wheeler's lap robe. So that was really cool. I felt like there was a lot of good juju on it and a lot of pressure. And then I also was able to use Elizabeth Gott's lap robe. I'm really into lap robes. And that she won, I think, with Here Comes the Boom with, and a bunch of others. So that was really special too. And my first year showing Peach, Nelson actually let me use Sweet Trait's harness, and because her head was so small, so she needed a special bridle. So that was really cool, even though I was the one to get it beat. But
No pressure there.
yeah, he told me.
So, did he, when you first showed her at Rock Creek, was he on the rail for you?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
Nelson was a big part of it. Yeah, yeah, same. He helped me a lot when we first got her. We had to change some things just so she'd work for us, and I like horses super, super curvy, so I was trying to get her to do that. And he actually gave me an equitation lesson in the buggy. And at Arrowhead, which is very narrow, we hooked up the four-wheel buggy to one of our Morgans, who's actually like a his name's Spring Mill, superstition. So a really, really nice one. And he gave me an equitation lesson in it. So I practiced, and he told me all about my reins and everything. So he was huge in that first year, and he helped me a bunch. And it was probably, I learned so much with that mare, and getting to work with Nelson in that first year was really cool.
Was she your first harness horse?
No, Morgans we drive a lot, but she's my first saddlebred harness horse. So I got lucky. She's a good one.
Yeah. I think we was back to
Question? Sure.
well, no, didn't put the S to it.
Which one's one of those? Dude, Mark, the little bit. I didn't think it's important.
Please don't just go. So we see. Oh, Tim, I think so. TJ, what's the most unconventional trading method or trade you've tried? Tell us your secret.
Well, my training methods are pretty simple. Unconventional training method. I mean, I was talking to Steve Wheeler once, and we were like, you gotta do it, but it takes. And I had this really, really game mare, and I worked her a lot. I mean, we bit in, we long line, we rode, we cantered, we went round and round and round. And her canter was a bear. I mean, she wanted to go fast, and she wouldn't slow down. And so, Lumina Watt almost taught me a trick where you take like a smooth bit, and you just kind of go across underneath their chest and tied over their wither there, and you just lunge them, and they kind of just like work off the bit themselves. And I just cantered her every day, maybe 10 times a day with that, and she finally was like, okay, I will canter slow. And I got her to canter great for her amateur rider. She won Shelbyville, the amateur 5 class at Shelbyville, that's usually a pretty deep class. And I mean, that's the most unconventional I get. But, we worked her, probably 3 times before Julie showed her, and she was relaxed and ready. And sometimes you just gotta do what it takes. Get them out several times. They're anxious, they're excited. I don't know that it's anything crazy out of the box or anything, but that worked for me.
Great. Right. So you tell me what's your unconventional method.
Where do I want to get my secrets up in here? Honestly, I'm kind of like TJ. I don't really have a lot of unconventional things that we do. We try to keep it as simple as possible, as natural as possible, without doing anything too crazy that's going to be too much or whatever. We try to keep it pretty simple. I mean, the craziest thing I would say, unconventional thing I use is I like to use a couple hundred number bits. That's about it. That's really about as crazy as I get. That's really unconventional for us.
And who taught you how to? I mean, like you just trial and error, or
trial and error a little bit. Perhaps Mom likes to, bit shop for bits and stuff anytime we get the chance, or look at at least, and
send her pictures.
A lot. And we've had a couple kind of come by, like, oh no, we ought to try that, and we ended up sticking with them. I think now we have 3 or 4 of them. But that's really that. And then I will say one thing, we have a rope bridle that's got a Western bed on it that Brian Chappell made for Mom probably 25 years ago. And everything in the barn wears that rod. But other than that, that's about as undimensional as we get. Pretty straightforward.
Yeah. Tyler. What's your favorite part of training a horse?
Probably day one for the yearlings. It could be the most chaotic day of the year, but then you see that little softness in their eye that says they trust you. And that's just really rewarding just to see that trust in you. Then, you go from there.
Is there like when you do get to watch them come on as winglings or even yearlings, is there a stud that you prefer to work their babies from, or?
If they're good ones, they're good ones. And if they're bad, they're not. When you show horses, then you just got to deal with it. But there's plenty that I do like, and I've had success with quite a few. It's just how they come.
All right. Mackenzie, have you ever had a moment where a horse taught you something unexpected?
This is one of the questions I thought that I was not excited.
Would you like to pass it?
Okay. Oh, how about this? So when I was in walk and trot, I had a black Shetland pony named Rowdy, and we were showing at Winterfest, and the center of the ring was grass. And I learned in the lineup that you should keep your pony's head up because he put his head down and it gave the grass, and I somersaulted over his head and then had to get up and smack him for it. And the judge gave me a leg back up, and it turned out it was George Knight. So, a bunch of years later, it worked for him.
Yeah.
Other than that, I mean, every once in a while they'll do something crazy, and you're like, "Oh, didn't see that coming until it came." I had a yearling recently, actually. It was his second day with the surf single on, and first day he kind of like tightened up and bucked and took off a little bit, and I was like, okay, well, second day usually it's a little better. And he kind of came around the far corner and saw the gate, was like, I think I want to go right that way. And he just kind of bolted right into the gate. Luckily, no one was hurt. The gate was a little bit bent, but we were able to fix that. And he hasn't done it since. So, and then the next time you just keep that rope a little tighter. But yeah, I mean, I guess they're always teaching you something. But I do like working similar family lines because you do start to follow
the same too.
what they do. Yeah, typically they'll kind of follow along the same path, and then you can kind of be prepared for what they might react like.
Okay. Morgan?
Great.
Are there, you've shown in dog trot, you've shown in pleasure, junior exhibitor, all that. Now, if you could pick, what would you go back to if there were no age limits, there was no, professional part that you had to abide by? Do you enjoy a division more than any other?
That's a hard.
It's like once you rack, go back.
You
don't.
I will say, if I gave a pleasure, the two horses I had that I showed in there was Take a Guess and the Gentleman, both of them, those were some of the most fun classes that I had ever had. I mean, even now, like, hands down, if I could pick any horse of mine that I could bring back and keep for pro, it would be Take a Guess. And there's just nothing better than that gator course that you can just turn and burn, and I mean, he gets you, you get him, and it's a really great.
And the junior exhibitor classes now in 5K data, they're a little bit more competitive than like
They are. They go for it.
Yeah, they do.
They go for it. I love it.
Yeah. One day your daughter might be training to run.
Oh, yeah.
Should be turned. Should be turned.
Hopefully she stays in the arena.
She can be better than me. So I go.
If you could give one piece of advice, I mean, this is to anyone who wants to answer this. If you could give one piece of advice to horse owners about working with you guys, what would it be? And of course, we've already established patience. So,
Loyalty,
loyalty.
trust. Loyalty, trust. Who did I have?
Yeah.
Them. Yeah. So that's probably the two biggest things. It's had a lot of trust in who you decide to be, your trainer, whatever. Decide, you got to trust on them, how to roll with it. Usually you do that, most everything works out.
And how do you feel like with out-of-state customers? How can you reassure them, like the trust and the loyalty part, if they're not eyes and ears on the ground in your barn?
Or working hard. Work your butt off. Work your butt off to get the job done. If you show that you can do it, you ain't got to worry about the rest of the false flags.
Honesty.
Honesty, yeah. Be honest with them. Be honest. You're honest with them. They can trust you, and you do your part. And everything else falls into place like it's supposed to. But they're saying earlier, it's all about the team. You all got to work together.
Yeah, from behind the scenes too, with everyone works.
Absolutely, every single person. Yes.
Yeah. What's fault? Who's that?
One.
The sugar.
You get out here, looking. We're both.
I do not. No, I do not. Hello. Okay, so I'm gonna ask one more question. Yeah, I'll say it. Okay, I'm gonna ask one more question to each of the panelists, and I guess we'll start with Tyler all the way down the end, and pass it all the way down. And then we'll start with audience questions. So start stirring about what you want to ask for horse trainer and get the nitty gritty out of them. So starting with Tyler, it's a two-part question on my end. If you could go back and tell your younger self some form of advice before becoming a horse trainer, what would you say? The second part is what amateur horse would you have liked to show yourself?
Those are cut.
I think I would go back and tell myself to go in the barn more. Growing up, I didn't really go into the barn. I did a lot of sports and track and field, basketball, baseball, and really caught the itch for horses when I was in high school. We got to start my first horse and just kind of took off from there. But the amateur horse would have to be personal day. I really didn't understand the hard horse thing until I got to experience it, and I loved it. I would sit in the stall with him all day, every chance I could. If I had a bad day, I'd go and sit on his tailboard, and we'd talk. And so he was a great one.
He was great.
I think I would just, I mean, I feel like I've learned it well enough, but I think I would tell myself that this is a lifetime commitment to do this job, and you give up a lot of things, but it will be worth it. I love my job. I love my career. Luckily, my family is very supportive. Got really close friends that are super supportive. As far as amateur horses go, I'm gonna have to call Callaway's Regatta that Michelle McFarland showed when I was a junior exhibitor, and he was incredible. He was super, super cool. On the West Coast, we had a lot of really nice horses, but he's definitely one of the standouts from my childhood that I saw rocking around the corner and just like laying, and she was such a showman herself. So that's what I'm gonna go in.
As a younger person, and pretty much trout. I've been really fortunate here with a lot of really great horsemen, just by happenstance or circumstance. And try to learn as much observationally as possible, or just through osmosis, probably, watch what they would do. And talking to old horse trainers, you try not to talk too much, because you'll get talked back to pretty fast, at least the older crew, so you just try to observe and learn that direction, but in that way. But probably would have asked more questions, more specific questions, because a lot of older school guys, like my stepdad, Jim Kohler, was an amazing horse trainer. And one of the things that when he and my mom got married, he retired, he didn't talk much. He just didn't, he loved horses, tolerated people. But when they got married, he gave me 3 old Kohler Farm tack trunks, and he just said, "Hey, you want those?" And I said, "Sure." He didn't say anything about it, and I went out to the garage and opened them up one day, and they were old school car catalog, VHS tape after VHS tape after VHS. And he videotaped every horse he ever worked. And so I have video after video after video of him working amazing animals from the beginning of their career until basically when he sold them. I would have liked that, I should have asked more questions, but because you have that, I think I'm one of the times where some of the smartest people I know in any industry ask dumb questions, because if you know more dumb answers to the dumb questions than everybody else, then you're actually smart. So that's probably the biggest thing I would have done about sugar. Then amateur horse, I got to ride him, but I'd like to ride him again, was Calvin's Criterion one. You barely came out of the saddle at the trot, and you did not know that in the saddle at the rack. And it was a pretty breathtaking feeling as a little kid. And then on the Oregon side, the stallion that we have now, like the Werry every day, I showed him as an amateur and as a professional, and living this being, so it's pretty fun. Pretty lucky that way.
So my advice would be, if you're in college or almost hit school or anything like that, take business classes. I wish I would have took more of them. I didn't realize how many components of that go into this later in life. I mean, even in high school, when you take accounting, pay attention, because I did. I should have. But all things like that really help you with this business. I think it's really important. And then the amateur horse that I would ride, probably be Mr. Center Stage. My dad bought him from Trey Lee, brought him out, and I just always was one of my favorites. That's it.
Advice to myself would probably be ready to work hard, don't give up, be patient. It's just like Dawson said earlier, Rome was built today, and sometimes I feel like younger mindset, you come in, we're so used to instant gratification nowadays that when you're young and you start doing it, you think, like, oh, I want it to be done now. I need it to be done perfect. I need it to be done right now. It's just not how it works. It's one day at a time, and you got to keep building at it. And they show you over and over and over again that you stay consistent and you keep doing your job, and they'll show up their job with you. As an amateur horse, I don't know. When I was younger, watching Elizabeth show Ford Chickwell's Royal Kiss in that all black suit, that little gate horse, I just loved it. I mean, I loved every second of watching them show. And it's funny, actually, right after I actually bought an all black suit just because of that. I thought it was the coolest thing. Watching her show with the all black suit, she had the skull crossbones on it. I just thought it was the coolest thing. I used to love watching that. But very clear, probably for me.
Okay.
You go ahead and see.
I think, like Tyler said, when you're young, you want it right away. And the biggest thing I would say to young people or even like younger self, take your time, soak it all in, learn from as many people as you can. I kind of rode the fast track real fast, and I look back and I wish I had worked for some of our older horsemen that could offer up some knowledge they've probably already forgotten now. But just take your time, and if you're coming out of school, don't expect to be right in the middle of your career. You got to start at the beginning. Just because you went to William Woods or Stevens and you jump into horses doesn't mean you're going to hop on a world champion and go win your first world title. I mean, it just takes time, and don't rush that, because that first win, there's nothing like it. I mean, it's something I can't really explain, but it's really special. So don't rush it. Take your time and really enjoy everything that this horse business has to offer, and learn from everyone you come across. I've learned so much from people who work for me, some of these older horsemen that have really taken the time to teach me. And I've learned that you can pick up the phone and call Larry Hodge or Steve Wheeler, and they'll come over and help you. You just ask them any questions. They're happy to help anybody. So don't be afraid to do that. And this is a great community, and everyone's willing to help each other. So that would be something I'd like to remind some younger people. Favorite amateur horse that I'd like to ride. I mean, I remember when Gabe Deckatow came out with the Daily Lottery. I mean, I wasn't around the scene for a long time, but that horse was incredible. And I mean, the speed he had, he was always in frame. You know, hope I can train something like that someday, but it was pretty impressive. So that's my favorite.
Something I would tell my younger self is my grandfather was a great driver. Like, he is super good driver. Did cars his whole life. I suck at driving. And I wish I could go back to being 16 and him show me to drive a truck and trailer. That would be really useful now. That ship has sailed. Instead, when I was 16, I wanted a Mini Cooper instead of the truck. I should have chosen the truck. If I could go back into an amateur horse, it would have to be very protecting. It's a good one. Yeah, he was the best. I remember me and my buddies would go and watch him show, and he was the most beautiful. He might be the most beautiful organ I've ever seen. He was amazing.
What I tell my younger self is probably what TJ said, not rushing the process. I did go to William Woods, and obviously I graduated. I was a horse trainer. That's what I thought. And it took a long time, but it took a lot of turns. And when you finally get there, it's really worth it. But there's a lot of days that I'm like, shoot, I wish I could just work for Top Miles again and not have to do this myself. So I wouldn't take anything for granted. Ask so many questions. And the biggest thing I learned is the great horsemen never stop learning. So if you can keep that mindset that you can learn from everybody, I think that's, us and I try new things. We call people for help all the time. So that's my biggest thing. But I love Fox Creek's Tiger Lily. I would love to ride her.
Well, I had all these good answers, but then everybody answered. I mean, everybody pretty much said it. I think that the biggest thing you can do is just take your time and patience and wait until the opportunity is right. Learn from the ground up. Learn every aspect of the horse that you can. Learn the care of them. Learn how to take care of them to the very top level. And then learn how to long line, learn how to ride, learn how to train. And then always be willing to learn from anybody, because you can learn something from anybody, whether it's what to do, what not to do. There's 100 things you can learn from. I learned a lot of what not to do from some of the people that I work with, some of the people that I grew up watching. And for an amateur horse, technically not really an amateur horse, but I'm going to count it because Gail Lampy showed it in Callaway's Park event. I loved it. I got to ride him bareback out to the field when he was retired at Mike Roberts, and that was pretty cool. But I would love to show him company to see he is.
I think I'm probably just going to kind of summarize bits from what everybody else has said, but I think it's important. Well, I would tell my younger self, I didn't grow up in a horse family or a horse background, anything. My parents knew nothing about horses. Still really don't know a lot about horses. They obviously, support me and watch the show, but I was really wanted to be a horse trainer out of high school, and that just wasn't an option for me. And at the time, that was absolutely horrible for me. But I did go to school, and I'm now looking back, and I'm really glad I did. That whole experience, went away to school. Every second I was, wanting to be in the barn. I'm grateful, I tell my younger self that definitely was the right move for me. And just to young people in general, just to, when you go work for somebody, same as what all you said, like work from the ground up, learn a system, learn take bits and pieces from different people that you've worked with and have your own way of working horses. There's, right now 4 of us working horses in the barn, and we all have our own. We have a general way we like to work horses, but we're not all the same, and that's fine, and that's why it works as a team. But I think, Danny had to work for different people, through his career. I've worked for different people with different perspectives and just conversations, like Glenn said, with, horse trainers. You can learn a lot just from talking to people, just in general conversation. I mean, I'd like to listen more than anything, just what people have to say about their horses and, good and bad. And you can also really learn what not to do if you're working with maybe somewhere that you don't feel like is a fit for you, but stick it out and maybe you'll learn some things that you don't want to take with you and carry on with. So, amateur horses. He was an open horse as well, but ultimate choice. I would love to. I never got to ride him. Tori, he left Devore. So I would I would love to have him and show him. He was a powerhouse, and just even back like when Deborah won the amateur stake with him. I mean, he was awesome. And then obviously, we won the stud stake out in the back of that. But true.
What a panel, you guys. Can we give it up for this panel here? I'm super proud of every panelist that is sitting here and that they deserve a seat at this in front of this lovely audience every day. And I'm super proud of everybody who sat down. And I'm sure you getting into being a horse trainer as a young adult, you didn't think that you'd be sitting in front of a bunch of your clients answering questions. But I just want to preface to the audience, everybody on this panel saw the questions before they answered them. So now is your time to ask the questions that were not asked, that they did not see, that they are not expecting. So if anybody wants to ask a question to their horse trainer or to somebody that they idolize, please raise your hand, and now's your time to ask said questions. We'll start over here.
This question is for Tyler Walker. I'm not sure if anybody knows me. I'm just curious, you work for Smith Lilly. I'm your number one fan, by the way. Before Smith Lilly, you trained and rode with their mom at their farm, and your mom gave you lessons to get started. What was your favorite memory?
Well,
Not to put you on the spot.
the stick that you had me ride, that was kind of scary sometimes.
More details, please, on that.
Well,
The stick.
people had 2 ice cream cones,
Oh.
teach you how to ride 2 ice cream cones, keep your hands up. But we had a stick. And if that stick hit the ground, then, you had to do some kind of challenge, something you had to do. But I think just coming out of the show ring and seeing both my parents be there for me, and be the first ones to give me a hug, and just anything that they're involved with it. It's pretty special. You shoot.
Who's next? Right here.
How much do you all of you put on safety first from the ground up with inexperienced urban people who are used to establishing from the ground up and everything being in the horse's space?
Are you asking just anyone in general, or do you want to
I think
pick?
this is for everybody.
Do you want to pick someone to ask?
Anybody is fine.
Does anybody have a direct answer for this question?
We were getting twice repeated, but
This is for how quickly can we ensure safety?
Well, we're going to teach safety from the ground up.
Teach safety from the ground up, like I'm assuming.
How important I mean, to me, it was learning and growing up in the horse industry, and when I teach people who come in for an experience, I teach them safely first from the base.
I think Dawson is a great candidate for this.
It's really important, especially when we get like little kids, that they understand. Like I can think back when I was like 7 years old, like put your hand on the butt and you walk behind the horse, and just basic stuff like that, it's super important, and they remember it. They're little sponges. I mean, even if you're 14 and you've never touched a horse before, just it's almost just that stuff that you keep in the back of your mind that you're going to take with you every single day. I think it's super important.
Right.
I think no one so long.
We got them.
Who's next? Yeah. All right.
There's something I want to twist like it.
Hi, this question would be for Morgan. What's your best advice for someone that might be going into this industry? That maybe didn't grow up in the horse world or something like that.
Did I?
Yeah, probably myself, but did have parents.
Yeah. My best advice, it was kind of like how we summed up at the end. I think make connections. People a lot of times think honestly, when I went to work for Tammy, it was kind of intimidating. But she's the type of person, if you walked up to her, started talking to her, asked her a question, she would love to talk about it. Every horse trainer I've met, if you come up to them and want to talk about horses, trust me, they want to tell you everything, which I think is also a great thing about this industry. But make the connections, go up there, work for the people, shoot your shot, because you don't know unless you try. And if you try and that's not for you, move on to the next one.
And you come on, guys. There you have a question. All right, next question.
All right, here we go.
Jen?
So as a young professional who also spent 3 days here, what advice do you guys, any of you, Jamie Brady, Glenn, Mackenzie, Austin, Julianne, bringing up your own young horse, trying to fight down for it? It makes a show horse, what that experience is like, but also the no-like show horse, trying to find a good call for it, good job. Let's see, please.
Insight.
Just teaching how to see it.
Okay. I have some very good friends in North Carolina named Werry and Devore, and they implement young horses like you're talking about into their program as lesson horses. So I would suggest making a connection, building a relationship with someone with a strong lesson program. Sometimes they take them, sometimes they help you sell them, sometimes they lease them out, things like that. So that's what I'd suggest.
Go right.
Next question, who's next? Morgan over here.
Or good friends. Yeah.
First off, thanks everyone for being here, over here with her on the council. So thank you again. This question is for anybody, for their input on how important you think it is to contribute back to this industry beyond the part of a horse trainer. So be it being on panels, committees, boards, judging, take it from there.
Open sword and back.
I think it is very important for our age-driven generation to start getting involved with our associations, our committees. There are so many changes happening, without getting into too much about it, but it's us it's going to affect. And I feel like sometimes there are generations making decisions for us that maybe it's not going to affect them as long-term as it is us. And, there's a lot of ways to get involved in that way. As far as judging, I think everybody should do it and give it a go. I think it has totally changed my perspective on how to show a horse, on how to train a horse for the show ring. What a horse looks like standing in the middle is totally different from standing outside the ring. And it is so easy to say, they should have done this, they should have done that. I just think there's so much perspective from judging a horse and trying to make the right decision while you're standing out there. There's a limited amount of time that you have to make that decision. I just think for a horse trainer, it's a great skill to have. Whether you like it or not, don't continue doing it. But I've learned a lot doing it, and I enjoy it.
So.
Yeah, but it,
Back here, we have, sorry, takes a minute for the mic to wake up. We have a question back here.
So this question is for really anyone like Juju or Kelly or Mackenzie. I was wondering what you all think like the future of our industry holds as far as like welcoming new traders. Like I know it's a very niche business, but like sometimes some people for industry is super welcoming. Like what do you all think the future for future traders and stuff?
And good.
I don't see it as not super welcoming. I was actually just like reading some things on Facebook, like all these people looking for assistant trainers. And that to me, that's wild that there's like a great opportunity out there for young people to take. I know when I, almost 15 years ago, was trying to get to Kentucky. I mean, that was my goal, was just anywhere in Kentucky. And I mean, there were long-term assistant trainers at every farm. I mean, and it was like you were coming in under an assistant if you to try to work your way up an opportunity. And I mean, maybe I'm not seeing it. I don't feel like it's unwelcoming. I think where someone might feel like it's unwelcoming is when they want to come out of school, step in and start working horses, and they just don't have the experience. I mean, you have to know how to take care of a horse, what like shoeing, what their legs look like, bridles you're putting on them, what works for what horse before you can just be, you're not going to be just given opportunity. And I think you have to work for that. And maybe that's why it would seem maybe not as easy to some.
Anybody else? Yeah. Well, I guess we have a couple today.
I would think also thinking about what you want to do and picking what direction you want to go towards, and probably finding people that need somebody like you. Usually, like we have people who like to work with us sometimes, and we're like, well, we don't have a spot for that, but you should go there because they do. I think people are welcoming, and it's finding the spot that best fits your needs. If somebody came to us and wanted to do a lesson program, that's not something that we could do right now. I don't think it's unwelcoming, but trying to find somebody else or asking for help for another door to open. I think everybody always needs help. It's just finding your way to where they are.
This. Yeah. Again.
Okay, we have an online question, and I guess I'm going to open this up for everybody because we're doing Facebook Live. Wave to the camera if you can. But if you feel like you have the direct answer to this question, you just grab the mic. What is a character trait that you hope that others see in you and you are proud to bring to the industry?
Steamroll.
Yeah, what's your traits?
Oh, I don't know. This is a tough one.
Yes. Right.
I don't know. Just the love of the horse. And that I love going to the barn and working horses, and I hope that everybody knows that I love going to the barn and working horses. I mean, you ask Julianne every day, I want to go and I want to work every horse in the barn myself, and I know that is not, I'm not capable of doing that. But I do. I love working horses, and I just really enjoy waking up every morning and going to the barn and being there.
Okay, I just want to say that there will be plenty of time to ask and answer any of these questions throughout the night. We're going to have one more question, and it's over here for each of the panelists in this row. So we'll start with Kelly and work our way down, and then everybody's ready to enjoy the rest of their evening, and we'll start over here.
Thank you. Okay, so give me the best answer you can. I know this might have left field a little bit. But I ride versatile saddlebreds. I ride 3-day Avengers. I actually have one of the only American saddlebreds that competed at FEI levels in the United States. So my question is based on kind of the trajectory of the saddlebred industry and this kind of growth in versatile saddlebreds. And by that I mean 3-day Avengers, dressage horses, endurance horses, anything of that type outside the gated world. Do you see these disciplines
changing the industry in any way, supporting it, shaping it? How do you see that working, and how do you hope to support such disciplines and such versatility within the breed?
It's very lovely. That's a great question. I think our breed is becoming more versatile. I think we are, we're breeding horses that, obviously, I think most of us breed for a specific thing, and when that doesn't work out for what we need, I am all about finding a job for a horse, and it doesn't matter if they are a pasture buddy, a little kid's, first horse, or a lesson horse, a brood mare. I think that, I do think we're open, to evolving in that direction. I don't specifically know what, the specs on that, what you'd be looking for, but I think that might be a good thing, to educate our breed on, to push our horses that way that aren't going to make show horses.
I think that every horse has a job, and every horse should have a job because they want a job. And just the more jobs that we offer to the horses, the higher the chance that we're going to find that job for them and that they're going to be happy with it. And I don't think it's going to have a negative or positive impact, more so than there's always a job for a horse, and the more places you give them to go, you can have more horses. More horses is always a good thing. You should too.
Yeah.
I think that, I work Morgans, they're very versatile. They do a lot of dressage and Western dressage and stuff like that. I think for the saddlebreds to maybe be more versatile, it's not the breeding as much as we were saying. There's always horses and they need a job. It's more maybe educating people that they can't have a saddlebred that jumps. I think that there probably is a need for them and there is a job for them, but there's probably a lot of people that are don't say oh, I want to try a saddlebred, like you, which is really cool. So maybe education would help make ours be more versatile, just because people would think about considering them, opposed to their normal choices.
But
So I dabbled in dressage and jumping when I was doing online school, high school, and I loved it. I was not great at it, but I loved it. So I personally think it's really cool that you did that Southward went out to it. Obviously. I just think we want an industry tomorrow, and if it's doing the jumping and inventing of saddlebred at this point, people are going to see our breed and support our breed, then I think that's a good thing.
I think that there are a lot of people that want to breed horses. I think that there are a lot of breeders that fear, what if it's not a great one? What if I can't sell it? So what you're saying is good. As a breeder myself, I'm thinking, okay, there's a spot for this horse, but kind of to touch on Julianne, what Julianne said is we need to educate people that can do it. And we need to know as trainers, who are these people that want these horses? Because if there is a spot, I'll breed more horses, my clients will breed more horses, my peers will breed more horses, and right now our industry is a little in trouble. There's a low supply and a high demand. And I think that's due to, like Grace said earlier, what do you do with the horses that aren't going to be the top tier horses that go to the World Championship Horse Show? And so I absolutely think if we can find an avenue for some of these horses to compete dressage or eventing, I absolutely think that it will help grow our industry because we can breed more horses and we'll feel safe knowing these horses can have a job and go on and excel. So, great question.
Honestly, I go back to what you all said. It's all about educating everyone. Let's say no that they can actually, look at a saddlebred for an option in that kind of realm, But that, and then, as big as the Huntsy classes are getting nowadays, it's kind of made like an entryway for a lot of people too that can't actually afford big time horses. It kind of gives them something that they can afford and they can do and do competitively. But it's just all about, educating people and trying to find horses that will fit in that spot. Because I mean, it's like you said, we're all breeding horses, and that's everybody's worst fear. They say, what if I breed this thing? It's no count, and I suck with it. Well, I mean, every horse needs a job, and that's kind of our job too, to find what that horse can do and what it can't do. And it's just the great thing about the Lindsay stuff is just kind of opening that door for stuff like that to start happening. So,
Very consistent with quality.
Yeah, I mean, you all kind of covered it. But I think it is important that the people see the saddlebreds jumping, the saddlebreds doing different things because, like TJ said, I mean, we all get locked in on the end goal is Louisville, or our end goal is to be a gated horse or something, whatever that client or your dream is. And, every horse is different, and if their job, as long as they're happy and they're doing their job and the people are happy with them, then that's all that matters.
I have a little bit of a different perspective than some of the other panels. There's mutual alignment on some things, but a little bit different perspective. Right now, the American Saddlebred, like TJ said, is registering about 1,100 horses a year, and 2 out of 10 make the show ring. So those 8 out of 10, they're going to go somewhere regardless, and it's been that way our entire life. But it used to be 1 out of 10, which is insane when you think about it. 90% of the horses we breed don't make the show ring. So there's always been a natural progression into other avenues. When I breed, I've never actually thought of what they won't be. I'm usually thinking about what they can be. And I think one thing that breeding, one of the biggest things that's changed in the American Saddlebred breed is in the 80s and 90s, all the tax laws changed and all the write-offs changed for all the big breeding farms. Because most of the large breeding farms they were a tax write-off for a larger entity, the family home, whether it's Cowboy Hills, whether it's Happy Valley, whether it's you name it. So that's really changed. The 1 to 2 horse breeder and the working breed is what makes the working breed working breed. Working breed, we're going to register 3,400 horses this year, which is precipitously more. But I think one of the biggest things is always breed quality over quantity. And I think in the American Saddlebred breed for a long time we've always bred phenotypically rather than genotypically, because we have a really genetically diverse breed. Because no matter how you look at it historically, it's basically a crossbred horse that we've just selectively bred for a long time. And so if you breed a genetically incompatible horse to another genetically incompatible horse, you shouldn't be shocked if you get an genetically incompatible animal. Then humans have 27 pairs of chromosomes, horses have 38 different pairs of chromosomes. So if you breed one that's not bred at all like the other, you're not going to have consistent crosses at all. And that's why in the working breed, typically, you may have one that's a partner and a superstar, and the other one might be a really high quality Western horse, but it still has a job. And I think that even if those 8 out of 10, if you're breeding a quality animal, they will be better in your discipline, which will enhance the marketability of our product, whether it's at Freedom Hall or out there at Rolex. And I think that's one thing that we really missed the boat on for a long time. And when I worked for Dr. Ron, he really drilled that in me genetically, that even if we need to breed it a lot different, because we bred the way we bred for a long time, and we are where we are because of how we bred. It's not the numbers, it's the way we've done it. And I think that we really need to, for the sake of the breed long term for all of us, we really need to adapt, and very, very quickly. But even still, those 8 out of 10 that don't make it, or even if those percentages go up, they'll still be better quality animals to compete in your space, even compete at a higher level, which eventually promotes our breed and all the disciplines. So that's just my 2 cents about the person who's still.
I pretty much just agree with Glenn. Yeah, on that. But I do. I think the quality of the horse definitely needs to be better, and we do need to look more like closer to line breeding, to where you're breeding same genetics to same genetics to hopefully get something more closely bred. It's not like you and it's not they're just not as closely as any.
Yeah, they're not as closely aligned generic work.
But if you're breeding for the quality, then you'll have a prettier horse, because a lot of the time when you end up with a not great saddlebred, they're just kind of ugly. They look like thoroughbreds. They look like, nothing against thoroughbreds, but maybe uglier versions of thoroughbreds. But you want that. You want a little bit of turn. You want athletic ability. I mean, all of that plays into being a great jumper, hunter, dressage horse. Yeah, that's kind of my guess. Good.
I would say the world's always changing. People are always getting new opinions of what we do and whether they agree with it or not. And they get us confused and we get bad reputation with it. And for example, we went on a trail ride at Summer Orchard this fall. And one of the leaders was on a saddlebred. And it was really cool to see how versatile they could be. And we just kind of talked about, the saddlebred, and they just got us completely confused with another breed. And then so we had a long talk about it, and hopefully that finally understood, and then they can spread word and just be positive about the horse in general.
Thank you again to our panelists, Tyler, Mackenzie, Glenn, Morgan, Tyler, TJ, Dawson, Juju, Austin, Kelly. Thank you so much for being here today. I know that you guys have such a busy schedule on this is a crazy weekend to do it. But thank you guys so much. Let's give it a round of applause.